Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Between Two Nuts. Today I am actually sitting down with the elusive, not on Twitter unfortunately, but will be making a miraculous return, SSJ K-Dots Sanctum. He also goes by SSJ or K-Dots, whatever you prefer. What would you prefer to go by, I guess, is the best way to start that.
Well, everybody can go by either SSJ, K dot. People usually just call me K dot for short, but if everybody want to go by SSJ or K dot or SSJ K dot, it's all good with me.
Oh, good. What you and I were talking before we started recording is that unfortunately he is not currently on Twitter due to some
Yeah,
stuff that went on Twitter, but he
I was.
will be coming back hopefully soon. But go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your channel and maybe where they can find you on YouTube or Twitter. I know that you're on Instagram and I mean you're a little bit of everywhere, I'd say, in Snapchat. So go on ahead and plug yourself a little bit.
Well, hello everybody. My name is SSJ K dot. Or if we go by my YouTube name, SSJ K dot Sanctum. Um, a quick little story about how I was going to get into YouTube. Super quick. If anybody is familiar with the channel Jody's Corner and J3 Entertainment, these two YouTubers were my biggest inspiration for starting a YouTube channel. So the reason I have a YouTube channel is due to J3 Entertainment and Jody's Corner. So they're the biggest influencers in my life for me to start this.
Hmm.
And basically, just what I like to talk about on my YouTube channel, just pop culture stuff, video games, music, uh, movies, games, music, all anything pop culture really. That's me. Soon I'll be getting back into talking about gaming, but I'm just DC and Marvel at the moment because that's what's hot right now, DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
So I'm dabbling in that at the moment,
Oh yeah.
testing the waters.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with well, with all the trailers that are dropping. We had the Black Widow trailer. We just had the Wonder Woman 1984. That looks really good. I mean,
Mhm.
there's just a lot going on. And also then the Ghostbusters trailer dropped. And I didn't have an opportunity to grab your take on that, but what is your take on the new Ghostbusters trailer that just dropped?
Mad, I'm about to break some. I'm about to break some hearts. I'm about to break some of your subscribers' hearts.
Go
I'm
for
not
it.
a huge fan of Ghostbusters.
Oh my.
I did not completely watch Ghostbusters through and through. I seen
Wow.
bits and pieces of it. I know the concept. I know the concept of it.
Right.
Ghost hunters. I know the concept. Don't worry. But when I seen the new trailer coming from someone who's fresh off of Ghostbusters, that's one of the good things about having certain YouTubers that's just fresh to things.
Right.
But going based off the trailer, it looked interesting. You know, I see they're trying to ride the wave of the whole Stranger Things, the Goonies thing, Stand By Me. Stand By Me is a good movie.
Yeah.
I seen that movie. But yeah, they're clearly trying to capture that Goonies, Stranger Things, Stand By Me vibe. You know, a bunch of kids going on an adventure together, stopping evil or doing whatever crazy stuff kids do, which I'm down with.
Right.
But I was kind of hoping for the cast of characters to be like teens or adults. Like I don't know, I was like, kind of expecting for them to be adults.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with them being kids, but I I'm kind of more. I would rather it be adult characters because it's going to be weird with these kids trying to catch some ghosts and stuff, and they're like
Yeah. Like the
they
scene with
don't.
them driving like the Ecto one. Like the little kids are trying to drive this car and it's all over the place. I'm
Right.
assuming that they're the ones driving the vehicle. And I thought, okay. Yeah, I agree. I would have preferred to have
Well,
seen
from
some
when
like
I was
teens.
looking at it, it looked like it was the van. It looked like the little bucket was driving itself because the mini turret opened up by itself, and the guy was like, "Oh my gosh, we have a mini turret." Or I don't know. Will from Stranger Things could have been driving it. You know, he
Right.
grew. He has
Right.
a super long neck now, so he can see over the steering wheel.
And I'd also thought too, I was like, because I'm assuming, well, I don't know which one of the Ghostbusters this little girl is the daughter of. but like meaning like he passed away. I'm assuming it's Egon, which is that because the actor in real life did pass away, who played Egon in the originals. It would be interesting if he was the one haunting partially the home, or he was somehow, you know what I mean, like in the afterlife helping his daughter with this. Like some kind of connection like with the older generation and the newer generation. That's why she's so young. You know,
Right.
I think that would be really a good twist on it. But I'm making assumptions and wishing for the best. That it looks fine to me. I mean, I'm not. There wasn't enough for me to see there. You know.
Yeah, yeah. It felt like a teaser
Yes.
almost. Even though it was a trailer, it really felt like a teaser.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't spoil a lot. They really didn't give away too much. They really just went ahead and kind of just gave you the whole nostalgia factor.
Right.
Put in the kids in it, put in a new age, but try to go with the nostalgia factor.
Right.
Sometimes, for certain cases, it depends on the companies who's using it. Sometimes nostalgia could hurt certain stories, aka Star Wars. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but this is Ghostbusters, so I'm not gonna treat it like Star Wars.
Yeah, I think it's the nostalgia would work better with Ghostbusters just because of how dated the films were when they came out, with so much product placement and commercialization. Like,
Right.
that makes sense to be more nostalgic in that way, to kind of bring it up to more of a modern term. But with the Star Wars one, oh, God. Oh, rough. So, I mean, what is your feeling? There's another question, okay. How do you feel about Rise of the Skywalker? Are you going to go out that weekend and see it? Or are you skipping it?
Well, I'm already prepping for Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, my.
I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it, but since it's my first time on YouTube and I didn't get to rant on Last Jedi last year because I did not have my channel up
Right.
now. I don't want to, but I'm most likely expecting I'll be doing a Rise of Skywalker rant. I want it to be totally epic. I'm gonna have food and I don't know. I might do a mukbang of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker and have it as a review. Gonna make sure I have food. If I can have my friends over to do it and we do a big thing, I'll have my friends over and we'll do it. We'll record it, the whole thing, do a mukbang while we're reviewing the film and trashing it or whatever. Hopefully, I don't want to trash it. I
Yeah.
want the movie to be good because they're bringing back Sidious and stuff, and Sidious is probably one of the best villains of pop culture.
Yeah.
He's he's up there.
I'm
And
very
I'm
interested to see what they're gonna do. I mean, I'm trying to. For me, it's like I have very low expectation. I got so burned on the Last Jedi. I was just like, wow, what is this mess? I didn't know what I was watching. I don't remember the ending. I had to watch it again, which was terrible the second time around, and it was worse the first time. I think it was just shock, like of how.
yeah,
I mean, there was no character development. I felt like Finn got thrown. He got thrown out the window with Tico. I don't even know what happened there. Like his character was just like, eh, like there's Finn. I was like,
right.
really? We could have done so much with him. That whole, just how everything is kind of played on this. I feel like the third one, there's so much work to fix, and of course, there's a lot of rumors and leaks and nonsense. And I'm like, in the end, if it's the dumpster fire that it is, then so be it. And hopefully they'll leave it alone after they've killed it completely. At least
Yeah,
that part of the story. That's terrible. But I don't
and
know. Go
I
ahead.
and I look at it like this because let's say if Rise of Skywalker does end up being bad.
Okay.
For us YouTubers that already have we already have our eyes peeled with Star Wars. This is free ammo and free content for us.
Right.
Free content to trash it, to wreck it. This is free content for all of us.
Oh
So
yeah. Mhm.
if Rise of Skywalker is bad, free content for us. If it ends up being good and somewhat redeeming, still free content for us because then it's like, okay, yeah, they somehow fixed it. I don't know how, because with me, when I watched Star Wars Episode 7, now a lot of people I noticed when they watched Episode 7 did this thing where they was like, well, we need to see what's the next film is gonna be and what's the next film gonna have. And I was like, it kind of weirded me out a bit because I was like, well, shouldn't the first film be able to like stand on its own? It shouldn't need like a second film to
Correct.
really fill it in. I mean, yeah, you need to fill it in, but like it shouldn't have to depend on a second film to
Right.
hold it up. It's like when I watched Avengers Infinity War and went into Endgame. I had issues with Infinity War, and people was like, "Whoa, you gotta wait until Endgame. You gotta wait until Endgame." I was like, "All right, I'll wait until Endgame." Boom, I got the Endgame, and I
Man.
had more questions
Right.
than answers.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, well, I'm not saying Avengers Endgame is Infinity War is as bad as Episode 7 in The Last Jedi.
Right.
Infinity War and Endgame are 10 times better movies than The Last Jedi and Rises Last Jedi and Force Awakens.
Right.
The reason my issues with Force Awakens is that Force Awakens, the biggest issue is that it just debunked the whole idea and concept of the Force. It debunked
Mhm.
the prequels. It debunked the idea of a master and a apprentice training in the
Correct.
ways of the Force
Right.
to for a master to teach his Padawan or her Padawan, hey, this is what it's going to take for you to use the Force. And they even established with like midichlorians and stuff.
Right.
Certain Force users are going to be a lot more powerful than others. Everybody's not equally powerful, but you can train to get even more powerful. But based off your genetics, you're going to be better than most other
Right.
people.
Mhm.
And then yeah, let's say Rey does have a high midichlorian count. Still,
Yeah.
she must be trained just like how
Correct.
Anakin
You
was
have to
trained.
shape that. You can't just throw it at a wall and it's going to stick, you know?
And see, Matt, this is the best way to describe how Rey got her powers. She
Okay.
took a USB, plugged it into her head, downloaded Obi-Wan was maybe using everybody's skills with lightsaber and the Force, plugged in her head, took it out, installed it, and boom, I'm ready to fight Kylo.
She's like Windows 10.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. USB.
See, because that was the thing. I was just like, okay, all right, so, all right, Force Awakens. All right, we'll see where they go with the second. And, I'm like, because I kind of had, when I walked out of there, I was fine. I
Yeah.
was okay with it. I looked forward to seeing the second one. I was actually kind of excited because I was like, well, the second one, if it goes in the formula that it has in the past, the next one will obviously elaborate on the characters in the film. We'll figure out who's going where, develop them, figure out a little bit more about this, Mary Sue personality,
Right.
and figure out how she's come to this point. How did she get, was she at the Jedi Temple? There's all these ideas of like where she could have come from and in relationships and so on. But there was nothing done in the second
Right.
one. And it was just like a whole nother, it was like a side journey into to shit town. Nobody cared. There was nothing we got from it. We didn't glean anything from it at all. It was just kind of like, well, that could stand alone and not even be associated with, aside from the fact that like Kylo and her don't know how to fight.
Right.
And that
Yep.
scene, oh, that was such a lost opportunity because it was exciting at first, and then I started just watching that, the throne room, and that was probably one of the worst. And the editing was terrible.
Uh, uh, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there's a YouTube channel that Corridor Digital, and they have usually have stunt directors and stuff, and they sit down and they actually like critique action scenes and stuff. And
Oh,
they saw The Last Jedi, and they just literally destroyed it. They literally destroyed it. These guys are like professional stunt designers and stuff who
right,
focus on stunts and stuff. And the biggest critique they made was the fact that the footage didn't seem like like this is in the Star Wars prequels. A lot of the action sequences was sped up,
right,
and you can tell they was sped up, like they was actually sped up because Jedi's and Sith, they don't fight like normal swordsmen. They fight really fast, they're agile, and
right,
they move with precision while still being able to move flawlessly without cutting off their limbs. They just move flawlessly.
right,
But in The Last Jedi, the way the fighting was directed, they had like slow motion and stuff, and it was moving so slow. It's the equivalent of if you've seen BVS, you remember the Batman verse. I mean, you remember the nightmare sequence where Batman was in his own little like dream world
Yeah.
with the Flash and stuff. And if you look at the fight from face value, you see Batman and he's taking on like multiple guys, and you would think it's cool. But if
Right.
you really look at it, there was moments where you see like a guy that's about to come attack Batman. He has a gun and he stops and he's watching Batman beat up another guy, and
Right.
but he's getting ready to go and attack. But this is a CGI. This is a CGI character. It's not a actor. It's a CGI person sitting there waiting until Batman finishes beating up that person. But this person has a gun. Batman turns around and takes him out. I'm like, whoa,
Right.
you
Mhm.
you 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 can't do a wide shot and show those random characters that are getting ready to join the fight and jump into the fray just standing there stalling and they're not
Right.
doing anything and they do something. That's why when you direct fights like back to example of James Wan when he did Aquaman.
Yes. Mhm.
James Wan has done he knows how to do wide shots and make sure everything is busy and
Correct.
nobody is slacking.
And you would think that
But
this would
with
be 101, action film, and also just what do you call it, stuntman, like to have an active scene as opposed to just people who are stalling.
right,
That makes no sense. And that scene that you're talking about, we're going back to Last Jedi when they're in the throne room. It was so clumsy and so, oh my god, it was such a lost opportunity to do something with it. And there was
yep,
contact not being made, and you could see that not being made, and people getting flung from invisible movement that wasn't even related. Like, it's kind of
right,
like if someone were to swing your arm out and you knock six people out and they're not even in the room. It
yep,
makes no sense. But it was just the most saddest thing ever. And I remember they kept editing out to go to what was it? General Holdo, gender studies, a purple hair chick, Laura Dern's character. Over
okay,
and over, they kept cutting back. I don't care. There was nothing about that situation I cared about at that point because it was so drawn out, and there wasn't. I don't know. There's so many things wrong with the writing there, but it kept editing out that the throne sequence, and I'm like, if there had been something interesting enough on Holdo's side, I probably would have cared, if that makes
yep,
sense. I wasn't. I didn't care. I was like, this lady
yeah.
isn't making good
I
decisions.
Right. I mean, yeah, because I understand you. Because the biggest thing, she was doing a thing. She was a big irritation to the audience because she was you had Poe who was actively trying to make sure everyone's safe, and you had this lady who is the general, the leader of the she's the captain of the ship. She took over after Leia
Right.
was Supergirl and went into her little concussion, but she's over here not giving anybody a plan. She's sort of like hoping like everybody's I guess catches on, and then when shit gets real, her plan goes wrong, I guess, and they get barricaded on the planet and they're almost about to die, and Ray had to come save them. If Ray didn't move those rocks, they would have died in that fortress.
Right.
So it's like her plan of having everybody believe that there's no plan and like say just have faith in me didn't work because if Ray didn't show up, they would have died in that fortress
Yeah.
being protected by Ghost Luke that died in seconds.
Oh, that
Poof.
scene. Oh my god. That. Oh my god. Like when I found out, it was just like Ghost Luke. Uh, I was just sitting here going, "This sucks so much. This sucks so bad." And then he, of course, like he's on the back on his island on that little what do you call it, mountainside, oceanside, like stone, and he disappears. And I'm like, well, that's a nice time to die, isn't it, Luke? Congratulations.
Right.
Like this is terrible. I was like, who wrote this? Somebody who's never watched this movie, like ever. It was so bad, and I don't remember the ending, so I had to watch it again too, because that's how bad it was when we left the theater. I was like, I don't even remember the ending, and then I realized there was no real ending. It was just them congratulating each other for being alive. They're like, yeah,
Yeah.
everyone else is dead, but we're still here. It was
It was
bad.
it was just a straight up like Like the thing about Last Jedi that just kind of just like kills it as a whole film to fans and the people who just have like sense.
Mhm.
It's just like it starts with it's mainly Luke Skywalker. Like I totally feel bad for Mark Hamill.
Mhm.
You know, I wasn't no big fan of Luke Skywalker's character, but I understood that Luke Skywalker was not a coward
Right.
because if we all seen Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker proven he is no coward because cowards do not challenge Darth Vader and Emperor Sidious and go into their throne rooms
Right.
by themselves. No coward would do that. Luke Skywalker did that. Luke Skywalker also had faith and belief that I can turn my father back to the side of good.
Right.
He kind of did. I mean, I wouldn't say he was completely redeemed because Anakin he was not completely redeemed in my eyes, but I understood what Luke was
Trying.
trying to do. And he did. I mean, he's a Force ghost. You know, Anakin has a lot of crimes on his hands, but hey, a
Right.
redemption, I guess. But the thing about it is like if you can redeem your evil father who was helping cities blow up planets and killing younglings,
Right.
rest in peace to all the younglings. It's like it does not make sense to me that you would fall to a person that is like you sense a little bit of evil in your nephew, your sister's son, and you say I'm gonna kill him. I'm like, that's your sister's son. Like, where did this mentality come from of you
Right.
just saying I want to? I thought about killing him. Uh, it was the first thing that popped into my head. I'm like, why would that be the first thing that pops into your head? You're the same person
Right.
that tried to bring your father back to the side of good. And
Right.
that's when it's like that's when you take a character that is supposed to be greatness and you have them fall into patheticness. It's like that's
Yeah. They
it, it,
destroyed it.
it yeah, it's just it's so it's the intelligence. All I'm going to say it's insult to the intelligence of it's an insult to the intelligence of sponges. It's an insult to the intelligence of starfishes. It's an insult to the intelligence of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Everybody's been insulted by it. I'm insulted.
Oh yeah. I agree. I think it just what happened to Luke's character in that film was just it was sloppy. It was disrespectful to the whole idea of like the story at all. Because in order to here's the thing: if you're going to use characters, nostalgic or not, they already have forms of personality that you can elaborate on, obviously, but it still needs to make sense as to you need to explain to your audience how he got to this point and how you can justify, maybe JJ's going to find a way to fix this. Let's laugh together. But, I have some residual hope that he can fix some of this. I don't think he'll be able to fix all of it. I think that it's one of those very sloppy messes. And the fact that they're bringing the Emperor back, I'd like to know how that's going to work. Um, it seems sloppy once again, and
So
I don't know. I, I don't
I
know.
had
Go
I
ahead.
had two minor theories about how no one. This is the only way I can see how the Emperor Sidious can come back. Now, I remember from the prequels where Sidious was talking about with his master, Darth Plagueis the Wise,
Yeah.
that they was talking about the idea of rebirth, transferring their consciousness to other bodies and everything.
Mhm.
But the idea of rebirth, you know, healing oneself. And the only way I can kind of see that is what if Sidious, I'm just saying what if.
Okay.
Let's just say what if Sidious created clones
Oh,
of created clones or something. And once he dies, he transfers his consciousness to another body. That's the only way I see
I
this
could
can
see
work.
that. I think
But
that would make sense. But then there's the but. Yeah.
I'm also like his body got blown to bits inside of the Death Star when it blew up.
Mhm.
So I don't think City had enough time to transfer his mind to another body. Like I don't know what if like I'm just saying
Right.
maybe the clones are probably on another planet hidden, or maybe the clones was on a Death Star.
Right.
Well, if the clones was on the Death Star, they blew up with the Death Star.
Well, there's also that belief that Sith can possess items like helmets and things like that. So there's that idea. What
Yeah.
if? What if? Let's just we're playing devil's advocate, but what if, maybe he possessed some piece of armory or even the mask of Darth Vader. I don't know. Like that's the biggest
Whoa,
thing,
wait, man. I think you're going somewhere. You just
right?
said the mask of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
You're on to
Well,
something.
like right. What if he
You're on to
possessed?
something.
What if he
You're on to
possessed?
something.
Possessed the helmet, and then that helmet got handed around, and there you go. And maybe that's what possessed Luke.
See?
And so, I mean, that's what I thought about because the way he was acting in the Return of the Last Jedi. Excuse me, I would never insult it calling it the Return of the Jedi. How dare you? Anyway, I'm yelling at myself. But when he was attacking Kylo, or at least the flashbacks of him attacking Kylo, he looked possessed. And I thought,
Yeah.
what if that's really what all this was, and that's how he was drained of hope, was because he was possessed, but he has no recollection of it, which is still confusing, and that's a lot to explain. Is that how would he not know that his body, in some minor or larger form, was being possessed by, you know, let's say whether it be the emperor or his own father? Dun dun dun. Who knows?
Damn, man. That see, Matt, the scary thing about that is that that kind of does almost make sense for like something you could do for a story
Right.
that Disney may do.
God help me. Oh my God.
Shit,
They
I
can
think
send our residual text to our following. No, I'm kidding.
I think you just gave Disney another idea.
Yeah.
Disney has the money. They'll give them a week. They'll watch this video and they'll be like, "Hey, let's go ahead and throw this idea in real fast. Call up Daisy. We'll pay her extra. Get everybody in here now. Make it happen."
Like I was talking with somebody about, because the Siths being able to possess items, and I was like, well, then that would make sense in a very mild way, because Luke took the helmet with him, even though he burned it.
Right.
Doesn't mean anything if it's still in the item itself or in that object. It doesn't, it can hop around. That energy can, saturate into whatever. It does its magical dance and it ends up back in the helmet in whatever sensitive way. The flames don't mean anything unless it's completely destroyed, and even then it's still in the residue.
Right.
So, who the hell knows? But I thought about that because I was like, that's weird. He's got his grandpa's helmet walking around. I'm like, easy, Kylo. You need to sit down. That guy. But yeah, I don't know. I'm supposed to. I'm getting drug. I'm getting drugged to go because the last time I was in the theater, I cursed in the middle of the movie,
Right.
really loud around the time that Mary Poppins Leia came back in. I was like, "What the fuck?" and like really loud. I couldn't help it. I was just like, "What?" Because I thought that honestly they were gonna let her go. At that point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because she had just died, so I was like, this would be a sad, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
tragic
And
way of letting her
right.
go, I guess, without saying it like that.
And the thing with Leia is like she has to die in episode 9 because they can't let her character linger because the actor is dead. So
Right.
like if the actor's dead, it's time to get rid of the character. For example, it's like
Yeah.
in Fast and the Furious when Paul Walker died.
Yeah.
Now they're kind of excuse for Paul not Brian's character not being in any of the missions is that Dom respects the fact that Brian and Mia are a family now and he does not want to include them in anything. But Brian still would help Dom regardless,
Right.
even if he has a family, because he was already doing it. So, you know, I don't want to see Brian dead, but it's like the actor's dead, and you can't let the character linger. Because like, what if something does go wrong and Dom needs some FBI intervention? Well,
Yeah.
no,
Some kind
he's
of.
he's no longer law enforcement. Brian's not law enforcement. What if Dom goes missing and he needs Brian for some help? Everybody needs to say Roman says, "Hey Brian, we need your help."
Right.
Well, the actor's dead, so the character can't come back. Oh, we're in a hole now. It's for episode 9. Leia, I'm sorry to say it, but Leia has to go. In my opinion, she should have died in episode 8.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I mean, I was no big fan of seeing her do her flying
Oh,
through
God.
the sky
Yeah.
because I'm like through space because I'm like, this isn't developed. This is rushed. her powers is explained by writing, not showing. Like
Right.
we didn't get no flashback or nothing of Luke and Leia in a room training together. We just see her do it because they tell us, oh, she learned some things from Luke. I mean, I
Or
get you're
like
force sensitive,
osmosis because she's the daughter of or some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like there's
right?
no real like I agree. They should have like that scene. I thought that would have been. I think that would have been a better. I hate to say this, but to let her go, just to let her go in that moment, so that way you have that sad moment. She's gone. The story moves forward, but they didn't have a strong enough writing, okay, for story
Yeah,
of how to keep Ray going. So they needed Leia to do that, and they needed to be able to utilize her again in the next film. And oh my god, the laziness factor of all this. It's unbelievable. I don't know. I don't know. How do you I guess when you think about the rise of the Skywalker, when you walk into that theater, what are you expecting?
uh, I'll make sure I walk in there with my I don't know. I'm contemplating. I'm contemplating if I want to go see the movie with one friend or if I want to go see the movie by myself. If I go see the movie by myself, I'll be able to pay attention to almost everything. If
Mhm.
I go see it with one of my friends who's who's into movies like me, we'll probably be roasting the movie and critiquing it as we watch it.
Right.
If I watch it by myself, I'll get a full grasp and understanding when by the time I do my review, boom, full rant mode. If I watch it with my friend, I may be a lot more critical of the movie during the time because I'm there with a friend and we're chilling, we're eating popcorn. I'm able to gossip with him quietly. It's like when I went with my friend to go see the Joker movie. We both liked the movie though. Don't get me wrong, we both
Right.
loved the Joker movie, but we was kind of gossiping to each other about it, talking about it because we seen it twice, and when we saw it the second time, we was trying to look for the little things in it. We're just dissecting the movie.
Right.
And I think when I get the Rise of Skywalker,
That's hard.
I want to give it a pass, but it's just like it's Disney. They haven't learned their lesson. Disney has to be not punished, but Disney has to be called out for their BS in the industry.
Yeah.
It's like company who was in my childhood, in your childhood, almost everybody's childhood,
Right.
and they give us great things, Mickey Mouse, House of Mouse, all this stuff, and then when we get to these movies and stuff, they just want to like give up in quality of writing. Like best example is, well, I would say when we got to Phase 3 of the MCU. When we got to Phase 3 of the MCU and we got the Civil War, which is my favorite film of Phase 3,
Mhm.
we got the Civil War. I just saw the writing just go like downhill.
Right.
I mean, for me, it picked up at Black Panther because the thing about Black Panther, the CGI sucked. But other than that, the story was cool. It wasn't the best, but the story wasn't Captain Marvel or Thor Ragnarok
Right.
like
Right.
dull. It was, I would say, Black Panther story wise is a better film than Thor Ragnarok and Captain Marvel that also came out in Phase 3.
Right.
And then we get to Infinity War, which I have a lot of issue with, but Infinity War was, when that came out, it had a lot of issues of they would write something and then they tried to sell it to me like this makes sense. And when I look at it, it's like this doesn't make sense. And then the fans come and try to make sense of stuff that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then we get the end game,
Mhm.
which I liked more than Infinity War simply because Thanos was not so soft and crybaby-ish. He was like just straight
Right.
up villain. I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy sitting on rock and rubbles. He looks like a Dragon Ball Z character, Dragon Ball Z villain,
Right.
just posted up on sitting on rocks saying, you could not live with your own failure. You're trash,
Right.
basically. And I was like, oh my gosh, freaking amazing. And then boom, I watched this and the setup of the fight is so great. We we have Thor, Captain America, Iron Man all walking up together, and I was hoping for more back and forth. The
Right.
one thing that scene lacked was a back and forth. Thanos was the only one who held a dominance in that sequence. Captain America could only say, uh, um, something about blood, whatever that blood thing. When something about blood, Iron Man cracked a joke we're all something about people being rowdy or whatever and stuff, and we don't listen very well. And Thor didn't say nothing; he's just looking. And but Thanos has control of the situation, and the writing is so good. And it's like you want to see the smart genius Tony Stark called Thanos out on his BS. Like, dude,
Right.
your plan doesn't make sense. You say this and you say that, but you could have done this. But the greatest analogy I would like Tony to do is like Tony just straight up tells Thanos, "Hey, Thanos, if I had your power, I would have just I would have just snapped my fingers and put the universe in my image." Because my whole issue with Infinity War and Endgame was that Thanos, his plan was, hey, I'm gonna snap half the universe in half, right?
Right.
And I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, cool if you want to have a temporary fix. And I'm like, well,
Right.
Thanos is the big bad villain. You would think he's going to be the final solution of the Infinity Saga. It's like I have the final solution, and then he comes with this temporary solution. He came with a common villain's goal. He didn't come with a grand master villain goal, which is I take the Infinity Gauntlet, I snap my fingers, and I correct everything. And I put everything back in my image. And everything works the way I want it to work.
Right.
Or what Thanos could have done was control reproduction, take care of, control everybody's birth rates. He
Mm-hmm.
controls how many children each person has. Boom, you fix overpopulation.
Right.
And then it was just my whole, that was just my biggest thing about those movies. I was like, you build me up to a villain, and then the villain just like, he's not smart. He's like, he's very redundant.
Well, yeah, there's a laziness there with the writing.
Right. It's just
It's
like,
just like when you don't have a good dialogue, it shows up. And
yeah.
I don't know, did
It,
you I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's like basically are the accusers type. It's just that in between villain in your movies where it's like you just need a villain to get by.
Right.
Thanos had a we just need to get the movies going plan. It's not he's the end all be all thing because killing half the universe is not end all be all. Him wiping the whole universe is end all be all,
Right.
and putting it back in his own image, that's end all be all. It's like if he snaps his fingers and corrects all of us, we're gone. We failed. We're done. Thanos
Right.
wins. Thanos snaps half. We still have a chance to win. That was the thing about it. They still had a chance to win, so they still had a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Thanos gave them a chance. He didn't create an ultimatum to where you can't do anything. He
Right.
gave them a chance. He
And
let them live. Boom.
speaking of interesting writing, oh, have you been watching The Mandalorian, or are you waiting?
I've, I am waiting until I'm waiting to get Disney Plus until the Falcon and Winter Soldier drops because I'm mainly there for the MCU content.
Okay.
Now I've been seeing bits and pieces of reactions to the Mandalorian.
Ah.
Um, I seen some of episode 4.
Okay.
Baby Yoda's cute, by the way. Baby Yoda is amazing.
Yeah.
Baby Yoda's that. I love Baby Yoda.
I do. I do love. Like I've been watching The Mandalorian, and the last episode was to me was weak. That was episode 5.
Oh
Everything,
yeah,
but you're not gonna get like a home run with every episode. So I'm not like, oh, how horrible. And because I gave it a
yeah.
chance,
It's
and I like it. I mean, I really enjoy it. I like the characters. I like the storyline. It doesn't seem, people are nitpicking certain things, like when they brought in the female MMA former, she was former MMA fighter who was playing the role of another bounty hunter. Okay, people had
right.
a fit about her, and I was like, listen, I saw some of the moves that she was making, and I went, yes, please do that again. Because it was well done. it wasn't like I didn't feel like her action sequences were terribly flawed. Like I saw better action sequences in this series than I did in the Last Jedi. So I can't say it. People need to be thankful for that. They were well done in
Right.
that way. I mean, there's still flaws, and there's still like the writing in the last episode. I had a problem with. Like I was like, this doesn't make sense. Um, but overall, though, I feel like Baby Yoda is the best thing ever. But there's been a couple unnecessary lines that have been exchanged, like in I can't remember. Let's see, the second episode it might have been in. Sure, I think it was either the second. Yeah, it might have been the second. Yeah, it was the second episode. Sorry, I have to catch up in my brain. Either second or third episode, and they have Mando talking too much. That's my
Yeah.
only complaint.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's that it was that was my when I saw the first episode, that was my first critique for the Mandalorian because I thought this guy was gonna have like some deep, groggy, like a Clint Eastwood kind of voice, like
yeah,
that very deep,
right.
like something deep and something like kind of sinister, but not evil, but
A little
something epic,
deeper.
like a voice like Josh Brolin's or Michael Clark Duncan, something
Yeah,
deep that sounds almost scary. And he just sounds like a generic guy. Like I wish Pedro Pascal was like, I'm this man behind the mask. I'm gonna play with my voice a bit. And
right.
I think when they revealed the Mandalorian's face, I mean, I think he's just gonna be a basic guy with like a super beautiful face and stuff. Because I'm thinking, I think I'm setting myself up because I'm thinking like, man, when he takes that mask off, he's gonna have all these cool scars and
That's
stuff.
what
He's
I was
gonna look
hoping for.
badass
Yeah,
and shit. And then what I'm thinking is they're about to blindside everybody, and he's gonna look like freaking handsome and stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're handsome, but I didn't want you to be handsome. I
right.
want you to be like beat up and look, you know, bruised up and
Have
everything.
some
I
battle
wanted to
scars on
see
there.
battle scars,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But just like you said, I wish the Mandalorian talked less. I wish he was more of like a not sort of like a just like a Batman figure, just like be that
Yes.
person that's just a big he's not a big guy, but be that sort of character that's just like not brooding, but you're the silent type, but
Yeah.
you have
There.
moments of burst
I don't know if you
of
saw the. I'm sorry. I didn't know if you saw that episode with the Jawas, and I think it was
um
episode. Okay, there was a line.
that's so made me laugh.
There was a line there, and it kills me when he said it. I was like, why? Everything else was good about the episode, so I can't bitch, by any means. But I will anyway. But he said he was sitting there, and his little buddy, Mr. Nick Nolte's character with the voice, the pig boy, he says to him, they want you to remove your gun. He's like, my weapons are my religion. I was like, why? Who wrote that line?
Right. Is
Who?
yeah, is
He didn't need to say that line. He just needed to give him a long look, and then reluctantly put his, do the strong silent stare, like, just
yeah.
he didn't need to say that line. But when he said it, I cringed. I was like, "Oh, that's rough." Oh, and then the spaghetti western music I had to get over. That was the other thing. Um, there was a lot of timing with the music in those show episodes where you're like, "We that was unnecessary." Like the
Yeah.
bring, like you were saying Clint Eastwood. Yeah, it would have matched. The voice would have matched the music. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just wish he had like some type of sinister, deep voice,
I can agree with that.
Something not so basic like Pedro Pascal's voice. He just sounds like a normal like guy, you know.
He's like somebody's
I
brother. Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody's brother.
I expected, a deep, kind of sinister voice, but I can get past it. I mean, for me, the Mandalorian, I mean, like when I watched Star Wars: The Clone Wars, every time the bounty hunter episodes came up, I was never a true interest in them. Like I was never interested in bounty hunters. I do like the fact with the bounty hunters that you do explore the criminal underworld of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
That's I mean, you can do that with the Jedi and the Sith. You can explore the criminal underworld. But like the bounty hunters, they are the part of the criminal underworld. They're the
Yeah.
ones hunting criminals, bandits, all these people, raiders, all these people. That's a interesting that pulled me to the bounty hunters. But with the Mandalorian, the writing issue I see, and I watched the Popcorn Planet channel, Andy Signor, and he brought up a good point about Baby Yoda.
Mm.
and the fact that when you introduce baby characters and when you write your episodes where you treat it like where the baby no longer exists, but the baby's there, nobody's taking care of the baby, it's like, whoa. It's episode 5 when Mando had his ship stripped by Jawas, so we know even Jawas can take apart his ship.
Right.
These little, these little bastards,
Yeah.
damn Jawas. These little guys can strip apart his ship.
Right.
We know if Jawas can do it, anybody can strip apart his ship.
Right. Yep.
So I'm looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute, Mando. Why did you leave Baby Yoda in the ship again? Now I understand he has no way of carrying him,
Right.
but I don't know. He can make like a satchel for his back where he can carry Baby Yoda in, and he can still walk around and stuff.
Yeah, I kind of, in my mind, when I saw that sequence, I was like, well, most likely he's like, well, it's a prisoner. And he's not thinking logically like, oh, it's a child. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he has, for me, it was like he didn't know how to, it's still there. I mean, it's gotten a little bit better, but like that inability to know how to take care of an infant.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of what I kept getting the impression of is he didn't know how to take, he didn't want to either. It was kind of like, oh, God, whatever, I'll just leave him here and it'll deal with itself. And it can sit in the egg, the floating egg of doom, and it take care of itself. Because you just had like this. I'll tell you what got me, and I was like, because the end of the first episode, episode 1, the very end of it, when we bingo, you meet Baby Yoda, and that's the end of the episode, right? I was like, oh. And so we're all talking, like, and we're like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, oh, I think it's great merchandising for Disney, dude. I guess my dumb ass will go buy a Baby Yoda. So next episode though, he's at the fire and he's doing his repairs. I think was this,
Yeah.
and the Baby Yoda keeps getting out of his little egg crib. He keeps crawling over and trying to help him. And he's just like, no, puts him back in. No, puts him back in. Third time, he just closes him and locks him in there. And I'm like, that seems about right for somebody who's fed up.
Right.
Because any other parent would be like, lock him in there from the beginning so you don't have to chase his ass. And then when he's on the ship, the more recent one where you've seen the GIF meme where he keeps pushing the button,
Touch the button and stuff.
and he just and Mando doesn't get it that it's more than just like turning it off and then moving him a little. Like you literally have to move the baby away from that. It's like I can kind of see like the dysfunctional, not understanding you can't leave a baby alone. So this last episode for 5, he got lectured about leaving the baby alone. So it kind of tied up the loose ends. I don't know if you saw episode 5, but
Yeah,
uh,
I seen bits and
okay.
pieces
Well, he
of
got
where
lectured,
they went back to Mos Eisley and everything. Had the whole callback to Han Solo.
right?
That guy sitting in Han Solo's seat, feet kicked up.
Yeah, that was that whole yeah, the whole bounty hunter, that little gunslinger guy. He was a bit of an ass, and I was like, this was a waste of episode. But I digress. There was a couple lines in there, and I don't know if you had seen. Like once again, I know you saw bits and pieces, but there was the exchange where the gunslinger is talking to the woman that they're hunting for, right? His little assignment to get into the guild, and
Right.
he's alone with her. And she's like, oh, well, they're after that Mandalorian, blah, blah, blah. You'll make more money off of him and his armor's worth more, blah, blah, blah. And, he's wanted because he shot up blah, blah, blah. And just going on, the guild wants him, right? And I thought, well, lady, there were other Mandalorian assisting him. Why aren't they in trouble too? Like, why is it only on him? Like, why is.
Right. That big guy with the gun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, well, wait a minute.
I mean,
And I thought, well, maybe it's because the one dude that survived it, oh God, I forgot his name. My brain. The one he Mando had shot, but he survived because he had like the thing in his jacket from the second episode or third episode. Oh, my brain's a flush. I think it was a third. Sorry. But when he oh no, I'm right too. Jesus, see, this is all a blur now. I got to go back and number this stuff when things happen. But I know it could have been word of mouth and stuff, but the fact that like he's the only one out of that Mandalorian group that they're after, I was like, well, what about the others that were helping him? You know,
right.
because they none of you know, it wasn't just the big dude. I thought there was a couple others that were assisting also, but the big dude was one of the one that saluted him as he was pulling himself a Iron Man salute as he flew away. Um,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
there was others helping him, but yet it's just him that they're focusing on. And now I'm like wondering, okay, well, if it's only focused on him, that makes it interesting but confusing, to elaborate on it. But
Or maybe
hmm.
the guy with the gunner probably the guy with the big gunner probably I don't know
Oh,
maybe he snitched and was like you can go get him. I apologize. I'll do this. I don't know. Maybe
it's
I'm just
true.
saying. I'm not saying this
That's
will
a
happen, but that
maybe
could be
his
a
own.
possibility.
That's a good strong possibility. His own people. Well, that would push it towards him being like this rebellion on his own outside of his religion,
Right.
and that'll eventually push him out of it completely. His own people turning on him or whatever. But yeah, it's just very it was a very interesting point, and I was like, okay, and it was kind of and I was like, why would he? And that was the other thing, I couldn't understand why the hell Mando left her alone with this kid who didn't know what the hell he was obviously doing. This little gunslinger guy. I would never have done that. Um, just common sense. Just, but it was like there was a lot of little weird mistakes he was making. I know he's human, but it was just a lot of weird, sloppy mistakes. You know.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at the Mandalorians, Jango Fett. I always go back to Jango Fett. Jango Fett is the primary source of the clones.
Right.
The clones you can say are Mandalorians too, in a way.
That's true.
And when I expected these Mandalorians, I expected, the training Jango Fett guy is sort of the same training the clones got, and you would expect for them to all be on point to a degree, like great with combat, good with strategic military planning, kind of.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's weird because the clones are direct links to Mandalorians,
Right.
and but the prime Mandalorians, like Mando, for example, is like not so. He's not as good combat wise as like a Captain Rex from Star Wars Clone Wars or
Right.
Commander Cody, and I'm like,
He's not as polished.
yeah, I'm like this is weird because you're like the legit pure blood version of the species,
Right.
and the clones like you're not so pure blooded, but they're, I guess you can say clones are pure blooded because they are all clones of Django,
Mhm.
but they're not. I guess you can all say they're pure blooded, but I guess when they're training and during the Republic and stuff, probably different measures of training. But still, there's a reason Jango Fett was the prime. He was the primary
Right.
source of the clones because they saw something within his DNA, his biology that was like, he's if we keep cloning him, he's going to produce good soldiers for us.
Right.
It's like when people breed dogs and stuff.
Right.
They breed certain breeds for, like, let's say if they want to do dog fights and stuff, they breed certain breeds to give them an edge in a dog fight.
You know, I
So
I do
same thing with Jango Fett.
I do see your point though. Like for example, okay, so like you have the clones and they're more like genetically modified in a sense too.
Right.
Even though that yes, they're clones, but they're genetically modified. But when you're comparing that to like let's say a purebred, meaning like what Mando's technically born into, meaning that's something that he was brought into, he was trained to do from a very young age. That's what has been instilled in him. But there's like these weaknesses in childhood and things like that. They keep touching upon. Obviously, things happened, and they're basically establishing this. It's a belief system. It's a religion, in lack of better words, as opposed to how the clones are more of a genetically modified. And I think, and this sounds really terrible, but if any species or any animal breed is genetically modified, after a while, there's always a risk of inhumane or a lack of empathy, almost to some extent, despite them being an organic substance. There's always that fear that there's a loss of humanity in what that
Right.
produces. So I think that maybe that could be maybe a difference. is that there's a little bit more humanity instilled in those who follow the religious path of the Mandalorian versus those who are genetically modified to be this type of
Just
prototype.
soldiers.
Yeah. It's kind of like super soldiers versus non super soldiers in a sense. You know, it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
an interesting thought to think about because
Well,
I never really thought about it until you brought it up. I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense because there is kind of a lot of differences, but then at the same time, there shouldn't be. But, you know, that's a good question. Because then there's a
yeah,
question of like
yeah,
what it looks like after everything is said and done. You know what I mean? With how the clones are now, like when they first started versus where they're at now. Like where is that evolution taking them? You know?
right. Because you did make a point about the whole humanity aspect too. Like Mando, because Mando is a bounty hunter. Bounty hunters are not exactly military trained
Right.
or disciplined like the clones were when it came to military and stuff. The clones actually were like, they was disciplined. At the marching troops, they had to line up. They was disciplined to be soldiers. They had to be the best of the best to fight under the Jedi and for the Republic. And Mando, well, the Mandalorians are just bounty hunters. They're kind of they get a mission, they get a contract. It's like you go out into the world and you do this and do that. You
Right.
come back, you share the spoils of what you got with the rest of us, and we all live happily ever after together.
Right.
It's like more freelancing. You go do your own thing. You go be your own entrepreneur. But you got to make sure you in the leader like you got to make sure you give me just a little cut, just a little cut.
Right. It's very interesting to see. I've been more. I think that part at least has been more interesting to see it as it's unfolding, meaning how they're
Right.
presenting this faction of Mandalorian and how they're the religious part of it, meaning how there's this faith based. This is the way. You're like, oh my, things are getting desperate. But
Yeah.
I like the way
This
it's
is the
going.
way.
Yeah, this is the way. That is the way. I have spoken. No, that's wrong character. But it's still it's I like that part of it. But there's aside for I would say all the episodes, for the exception of the last one, for me were pretty good. Like I've been content with them. There hasn't. I mean, I like the Jawas just because they're obnoxious.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed seeing that. But his character, I was a little worried for a bit there that he was talking too much. That's my only complaint. I'm like, ooh, don't talk too much, Mando. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
On- Only thing I fear, and this when it comes strictly to TV shows, because with TV shows, we if I had to be honest with just almost any TV show in general, a lot of TV shows do have corny dialogue, but it's a few shows like Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Power,
Mhm.
a lot of shows that will have tremendously intense dialogue and actually kind of like it takes the world a lot more serious than most others. Like when
Yeah.
I watch some of the Marvel Netflix shows, like Luke Cage,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones. Now, so Daredevil and Punisher is I'm not really a big fan of Daredevil or Punisher like that, but they're the only good Marvel Netflix shows in my opinion out of the five.
Right.
Luke Cage, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones. I I finished all Luke Cage. I watched it, and I was just like, wow, this dialogue in here is super corny, and this is a Netflix show. Like, the dialogue is super corny, and we already know the CW shows super corny
Oh
in
yeah.
dialogue, super corny in dialogue, super corny, and just that idea of TV shows where it's a moment where you have to settle for like, wow, gotta settle for some corny dialogue. It's just like that scene you told me where Mando said, "My weapons are my religion." I'm like, ugh. I mean, you could have probably said something a lot more cool. I don't know what he could have said, but he could have said something cooler than that, and not that.
It was
He could have
bad.
said something cooler.
It's like when you first hear that line, I was like, "What?" I just looked at him. I'm like, "You could have not done that, and it would have been fine. You could have just stared." You know?
Yeah, just stare. That would have been better.
Yeah, because that line was
Give him
so
that cool
bad,
stare.
and I kind of laughed out loud. I was like, "Oh man, that's pretty bad." But it went. But it's like overall though, I've been pretty pleased with it, and I haven't had many complaints. I'm glad to see that at least there's something. Favreau's trying. You're like, okay, guy, and then Filoni's in there too. Okay, I'll give him both brownies for this. At least it's looking decent for now. Like I'm happy with it.
I,
I'm not disappointed. So I mean, it's a show
yeah,
that I'm
and
returning to. I think. So and
we
yeah.
also had that news of Feige potentially coming in and do Star Wars. And
Mm,
I'm just thinking, if the Mandalorian does do good, let's say by the end of the Mandalorian, it does really great.
right.
And people start to lean towards Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau more often. And Kevin Feige comes in. I think if all three of these minds get together, they can find a way to put Kathleen Kennedy in check. Like they may gain so much backing from the fan base. Like remember, Feige has the MCU fan base.
Right.
He initially has the Marvel fan base because people forget Kevin Feige been there ever since like Toby Spider-Man films, the X-Men films. He been there for a long time
Yep.
behind the scenes. He was even I think he was at Sony too, working with AV Arad. He was working with the lady that was there at Sony for a while.
Mhm.
But he was there behind the scenes. So Kevin Feige has a backing. He has a backing of Marvel fans. If the Marvel fans see that Kevin Feige's doing Star Wars, and the Marvel fans notice, oh my gosh, Kathleen Kennedy, you suck.
Right.
You can't. You suck. And then if the Mandalorian does great and the fan base does come back to it, the Star Wars fans come back to it. They're like, man, the Mandalorian's amazing. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, we need you guys to stay on. And then Kevin Feige, Dave Filoni, and Jon Favreau just somehow get to work together on an idea, work together on like a spin-off series.
Yeah.
And they
That'd
get
be
enough backing from the fan base. I think that can be a big help to push Kathleen Kennedy control over Star Wars down.
yep.
Or Bob Iger might just say, well, Kathleen, episode 9 came out. I talked to the fans. You are peddling garbage. Get
It's
out
true.
of
Oh my god.
here.
Because I mean, there's so many things you can do with Star Wars, and it's like uh, I'm glad to see. Okay, we're getting a little bit of that the Mandalorian taste, which is great. I've been happy with it, but they have so many facets that they can run with Star Wars as a whole. So to
Yeah,
see what they've done with these films with characters that were already established, which is sad. Because to me, it's like if you have already established characters, it can be very tricky. But at the same time, you're writing new characters in. So it's, in my opinion, and the circumstances surrounding it, you're not going to please everybody. But when you have a majority of people who are just it left a lot of us with a bad taste in our mouth, a lot of nasty things that were said after the fact of those who didn't like it, and that goes against the person who wrote it, endorsed
right.
that bullshit, and then got angry because people started name calling people. Now, are there sexists in the world? I'm sure. Are there racists in the world? I'm very sure. But it's not because the characters in this film people hated because of the color or their race or their gender. It had nothing to do with that. It was the writing that was terrible. And
Yeah,
like that, let me just say this, okay, SSJ. Okay, I'm being honest. Is that when I came out of that film, I had no expectations of going to see this third one, in this segment of horror. I had no anticipation. I was like, I'm done. I was done when I walked out of the theater very disappointed because that's me and the eldest squirrel. That's our thing. That's always been our thing. We go and see the films together. I introduced him to Star Wars when he was little. Um, that's our thing, man. And he's dragging me to go. He already knows it's going to be a scene. If it's bad, I will let the theater know it's bad because it's just. I'm angry because of the loss of potential. Like so much loss of
right.
potential here, and that's what makes me so sad. Is that I wrote sequels to these films when I was young, dude. Like when I saw Star Wars, I wrote sequels of like what it would be like, to have like this huge, kind of like a legacy of Skywalker or a legacy of, the Kenobi family and going back into. I love this shit so much. So to sit there and watch what they did, I walked out and there was nothing for me to go on. I didn't know what to expect in this The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, isn't he dead? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, what are we looking for? And that was the sad part, is like, I don't know what to expect in the next film aside from hope that there's a little bit of residual something. But I was so irritated with the trailers. I was like, I don't get it. And I mean, there's a lot of rumors floating around and things like that. But in the end, it's going to take a lot of creative writing and dialogue to get there.
Yes, it is.
It
Yeah,
it's
it's
rough. I mean, were you
at
a
this
big
point.
Star Wars fan when you were young? Like when you were a little
Oh,
guy?
well, I have to tell everybody. I was one of those kids that used to defend the prequels.
Hey
I still
man,
do.
that's fine.
I
My son
I
defends it
I
too.
would defend the prequels to my heart's content. So yes, I was. I was not a deep Star Wars fans, but I still defended the prequels. Like
They were fun. They were fun
I was
movies.
not a casual viewer, but I was there enough to. I didn't read the books that much.
Mhm.
I read some of the lore. I seen all the Clone Wars. I watched all the movies. Played majority of the video games.
Mm.
So I'm not a fan, but I'm in Star Wars enough to like still respect it. I'm in it enough to respect it and be like, these are some good movies. And
Yeah.
I will still defend the prequels, even though I'm not a super deep fan of Star Wars. I'll still defend the prequels any day of the week.
Right.
But with this whole thing with Star Wars at this point, I look at it like this. Best example, I don't want to use him, but I got to. Let me use Zack Snyder for example.
Okay.
Now, let's look at Zack Snyder. It is not his complete fault that Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League were bad movies. Warner Brothers had plenty of fault at it too.
Yeah.
But that does not excuse the fact that Zack Snyder also had fault in the situation too. Warner Brothers had a fault and Zack Snyder had a fault.
Right.
They all had fault. I blame all of them, including him.
Yeah.
And Zack Snyder did a great job at taking two of the most popular, almost the two of the most the top two most popular superheroes on the planet with Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman, twisted the lore of them so much to where it's like, cinematic universe, this big event thing that we're trying to do, and he gives me this Superman that watches his father die. His dad tells his son, "Hey son, I mean maybe you should have let them die. I don't know. You shouldn't have helped them, son. You're in trouble. I'm gonna scold you." And then I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, you took the most popular character. Well, not the most, but one of the most popular icons in the world, Superman. His symbol is his symbol is just as recognized as the Christian cross.
Right. Mhm.
That's how
Mhm.
known Superman's symbol is. You took this character, you twisted it. He's the big thing in DC next to Batman, and
Right.
you flipped him so bad to the point where you cause a shift to where people are literally divided on the most iconic superhero ever to exist, and it's like that should never happen. Like it should be like maybe like a 1 or 2% out of the 1% out of the 98 that are like, all right, we're riding with this character. But with Superman at this moment, it's a 50-50 split. And you look at Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy, Ryan Johnson, and J.J. Abrams did a great job at alienating the fan base. They alienated people.
Yep.
They insulted people's intelligence. They and I have to say it, like the way they're using women, the way they're using even blacks and stuff, Finn characters and stuff, Rose Tico, the Asian characters, they're trying to use diversity as an excuse to make bad movies. It's like, oh, we have an Asian character, Rose Tico. We have a black character,
Yep.
His name's Finn. He's a stormtrooper, and I'm just like, I'm black, and I'm just like, huh, yeah. This
Right.
isn't throwing me a bone. You're making this black guy that is supposed to look like me not tight. He's not cool.
Right.
Finn's not cool to me. Like after like episode 7, I was like, is he force sensitive? Is Finn force sensitive? He's Finn force sensitive. Well, sadly, he's not. He's just a regular guy. You know, I thought Finn and Ray was gonna be like not a thing, not a couple, but like I thought Finn and Ray was gonna be like best buds together
Right.
in it, and they both become force sensitive together. But no, they try to do this whole Finn and Poe thing, and I'm like, Finn and Poe aren't even. They barely hang out like that.
Right.
Like episode, let's look at episode 7. Finn did not see Poe until the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He thought Poe was dead, and then you get to episode 8. He saw Poe what twice in the movie,
Uh, yeah.
but for the majority of the movie, he was at Rose. Same thing with Leia and Ray.
Yeah.
Leia and Ray only talked once in The Last Jedi, and I see people doing this thing of like this combination of Leia and Ray is like a thing. I'm like, Ray's seen her once in episode 7. She's seen her once in episode 8. They don't have a relationship. They don't talk to each other. They
Right.
don't. They don't.
And that's the
It's
stuff that's like
the
confusing. Like the
the
develop.
writing of these things. It's
Yep.
like,
Yep.
and then they're messing with the canon so much. They went ahead and just killed off Han Solo in the laziest way possible.
Yeah. Like that
It's
whole.
just
They
it's
made the first mistake was Kylo taking his mask off. I was like, bad idea. And it was a bad idea. The whole theater laughed. Okay, that's not a good reaction from the audience. And then after that, Han gets offed, and it was just the way that everything played out going into like the last Jedi itself. That whole movie was just like it's like we are just pretending like the Force Awakens partially happened, and now we have all these other characters. We haven't even developed the first set yet, because that's the like in the Empire, like you were saying before. You made a good point. Is a lot of the films, like let's say A New Hope, and then Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi. They each one of those films did stand alone in their own ways. Like even though yeah, it's part of the
yeah,
trilogy, they stood alone. These films, oh yeah, they stand alone. They stand so alone. It's in a whole nother country. Like the second one, I don't even know what the hell happened. That movie should never have happened. It should have been different. I don't know. The characters should have been a little bit more developed. I don't know, it was pure chaos most of that film. So it didn't stand alone. It stood crooked and disheveled, and it didn't add anything to the story whatsoever. Like it didn't. Like all we got, and did
yeah,
you see the cut scenes from the Last Jedi? Like the cut scenes that they actually put on, they were just cut out of the movie completely. Of like one of them was Luke training uh, Ray, um, and it had a little bit of his Luke humor.
Oh wait, was they fighting in a rain? Was it raining and they was fighting
Uh,
like sparring
yeah, there was
almost?
one was sparring, and then there was another one where he was having her do like a side mission with those little like nun people that like whatever those little round people are on the planet that he or the island he was on. And
Right.
there was that little segment there where there were he was having her do a quest. And he knew it was going to be it was going to be a pain in the ass, but he did it on purpose. But that was very Luke humor. It's like that added a little bit more to his character, more than the rest of the film did. That was the only time out of the entire film that I recognized Luke Skywalker at all, remotely. Like he wasn't like a crotchety old man, but he was that Luke we remembered for a brief window. And they'd cut the scene out, and I was like, if you had left that in, at least we would have said, well, at least we saw Luke for like 2 minutes. Yeah, because
Yeah. Hey,
you know,
at least he would have had something to go home with. Better
right,
to go home with something than nothing.
exactly. So
A
it
lot of
was.
people went home with nothing when they left the Last Jedi.
Oh, it's absolutely true. And I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, when I left the theater, the eldest and I were sitting there talking in the car about it, and I was like, dude, I don't remember the ending. He's like, they were laughing in the. He's telling me they're laughing together, like, hey, we survived. And I'm like, that's a lame ending. No wonder I forgot it already. Because it didn't make sense. They lost most of their people being shot down because the general got lazy, and
Right.
you know, all those shuttles got shot down of all those innocent people, but they're all happy they're alive after a very short battle of doing jack shit. It was great. Yeah, like it just seemed like a not like at the end of uh you know of the excuse me like the A New Hope, and then at the end of, well, most of the films when they have success in battle, even in Return of the Jedi, when they're celebrating, you actually feel that celebration.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel no celebration at the end of that. I was like, are we celebrating that this movie is over? Because that's about it. That's all I got.
Shoot, when the freaking Ewoks, shouts out to the Ewoks, heroes in
Yeah.
their own right. And I'll say this about the Ewoks: people may say they're ridiculous, but I don't think creating tree log traps is ridiculous. That
No.
hurts.
Yeah,
Those
I
hurt.
loved it. I liked it. I was like, I like
Yeah,
that. I like the Ewoks a lot. I know a lot of people, like you were saying, a lot of people don't care for them, but I don't care. They're awesome. I was like, oh, as a kid, they were a little freaky. I'm like, they look like little Shih Tzus running around and shit. But even so, it made the story a lot more interesting and fun to have a new species, and to have like this tree forest, indoor beautiful planet, and a whole different way of like I love that whole movie. Like I really do. I think that was Return of the Jedi was great. I think what would be your favorite Star Wars film out of all the films? Would you say?
Return of the Jedi for me.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi simply because Luke, he is a Jedi during that time. Like when I first watched Return of the Jedi, the prequels is out during the time I was born,
Right.
and
Mhm.
so I was not there at the start when people were still like, oh, what's the thing with the Jedi's and Sith and stuff? I want to know more. But it was good to see him as a Jedi, good to see him with a lightsaber, and then you get to see him confront his father. You see him
Mhm.
confront Sidious, and it's just the fact that it's a whole heroism factor that with Luke Skywalker in that whole movie
Yeah.
is that this dude stood alone against two of the most evil men in the galaxy by himself. Leia wasn't there, Han wasn't there, Chewbacca wasn't there, R2D2 wasn't there. It was just Luke by himself. It felt heroic. It felt like what I like to see when I saw Captain America standing against Thanos' army. It
Right.
was heroic. It made me feel like it when I watched that, I felt like, wow, this dude is a hero.
Right.
He's not my hero. Well, I'll say he's one of my heroes. I'll say that much. When I looked at it, I was like, bro, you're my hero.
Right. Right.
I can look to you and I see hope.
Yeah.
Try person to be the best. When I saw you in the Last Jedi, you're a coward.
Yeah.
Ah.
Oh yeah. Like
Yep.
I mean,
And see,
and you see the rise
it's
of
those
Luke. That's the thing that's great about that part of it is like The Empire Strikes Back is one of my favorites. I think that one, and then the second is Return of the Jedi. Like those two are my favorite. But the reason why Empire Strikes Back is because you do see that struggle of him going well from the first film, like we're not the first film, but where he's struggling as a young man, and then when you get into Empire, he thinks he's hot shit, and he's really not, and he's getting his ass handed to him, but he's
right,
growing and he's learning the hard way, and he's obviously he loses his hand, and he goes through the trials of, okay, we still have to get Han, we still have to do all these things, we have to overthrow these bastards, and it's that feeling of like um, you're watching someone develop and grow into a man, into a
yep,
strong, courageous person, not just, and even Leia too is growing as she's going along. She's having to come into her own, not just in a political sense or political theater sense, but as an individual. So by the time that we see them in a Return of the Jedi, here they are, these badasses, um, just pushing the envelope on what they're able to do that they weren't able to do prior. Like you're starting to see them become more riskier and taking more chances, but doing it in such a way that there's always a plan. Now there's actual plans. Like they're not just showing up where Luke would showing up and like, I'm gonna kick your ass, Dad, and he's like, I'm gonna take your hand. You know?
right.
Oh man. But yeah, I love those films for that reason. You get to see him turn into this like, you know, grown a man and this strong-willed adult, and you're like, that's that's a journey. Whereas with unfortunately with Ray, we aren't seeing jack shit. She just showed up, like you said, USB port. upload Windows 10 complete. Um,
Right.
her
It's
updates keep failing too. That's coincidental. I don't know,
it's
but
like
yeah,
it's like surprisingly, a lot of people think I don't want to see Ray as a main character. I was totally fine with a female leading the series when
right,
Ray came in.
absolutely.
My issue is just how she's being written. For example,
Mm,
um, it's not easy writing. Well, it's easy to write a female character. It's easy. You don't have to write her like a dude. She can still be feminine and tight. I mean, for example, the best example is Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
mhm, mhm,
Best example.
mhm.
She still looks super feminine. She's still about her business, doing what she got to do. She's not afraid to show love and affection. She's not, she's not. She's open to showing emotion. She's open to still, there's chances where she'd be strong, but she's not like it's. If I had to be honest, man, Squirrel, the one thing I noticed that kind of it doesn't take me off, but I'm just like it confuses me
Mhm.
when they write female characters nowadays. It goes into design too. They like to give them the whole butch
Yes.
aesthetic,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, you guys are going against the grain, fighting against men, right?
Right. Mhm.
Well, it's kind of weird if you're dressing like a man and trying to take on male features to empower you. It's like you can still look like you. It look super feminine.
Right.
I'm not, I'm not saying, girls that are butch or studs have to look feminine, but it's like, if you're trying to say you're trying to go against the patriarchy and stuff and be against this, it's weird when I see you look like the patriarchy you're going against
Yeah. Right.
and you're like saying I'm still strong. It's like, no, you're taking on male features, meaning you're saying you need these features to be stronger.
Right. It's a
Like
very,
what?
what do you call it? Cosmetic fix for something.
Right.
And I think well, my
Terminator Dark
yes. Oh God. Oh God.
Fate. I didn't watch it, but the main
Oh.
the main girl of
It
Terminator Dark Fate.
and
Yes.
that's I agree because the thing is that they don't when it comes to writing a female character, they are trying to stay away from any kind of feminization. So they're trying to like, well, we don't want them to be a stereotype or be this. Well, some things are just feminine, meaning
Yeah.
they just are. So that means she may want to wear a skirt and maybe she'll wear leggings or maybe she wants to have long hair, as opposed to a butch haircut. It's one of those things where if you masculinize a female based on the cosmetic wear, and then make her what do you call it? A little angry harpy, okay? Who
Yep.
who all she does is snark here and say nasty little things there. It doesn't make her a strong female by any means. If anything, it just makes her a shitty human being. Um,
Right.
so if you're going to write a female, it's about the confidence level, not the
Yep.
snarkiness. You don't need to be snarky. You just need to be confident. And strong empowerment comes from confidence and non codependency. But there is
Yep.
such a thing, and I will agree with this, is that if you're in a team environment, you work as a team, okay? And that's one of these things that the feminists will bitch about is, well, they shouldn't have to depend on no man. I'm like, they're in a team environment. We're dependent on one another. You know,
Right. It's
that's the way it works. Like, they have to bounce the ball back and forth like a conversation. They can't just, I'm going to do it all because I'm this strong, all powerful, all thing. Why is it that the female has to be all powerful to be something important?
right.
That
It's
makes no fucking sense whatsoever. It really, sorry, it pisses me off. Like, it really, really pisses me off. I'm like, Shira, things I grew up with. I loved Wonder Woman because she was both feminine and an ass kicker, and this was her character, right? She worked just like kind of like Superman, right? She had her alter ego, you know, Diana, very feminine, working a job like a normal
right.
job in a building, doing that 9 to 5 gig, and then she was this ass kicking, very gorgeous, Amazonian woman, who could kick everyone's ass and have a great time doing it, and then still have that in between where she could be feminine, yet she could be a strong woman and be feminine at the same time. And I don't think that's the problem that we've had is that apparently women aren't allowed to look a certain way because that's how we judge their power. shut the fuck up. Like, what's going on, man? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Well, see, I can also I can also sympathize with a lot of women on the fact that you know it's not completely wrong that some men in a patriarchy. Well, I'm not going to call it patriarchy. I'm just going to say that
Society.
a lot of society is male dominated from the start.
Oh
It
yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
with it through many things, through religious, all this stuff, all that. But I'll give you the best example. I was at work today, right? I was at work 2 days ago. I
Mm-hmm.
work at Amazon. I was at work, and there's this girl that started working there. Super cool girl, super cool. We're always talking and stuff, always goofing off with each other. We're always like doing fake, snarky back and forth comments
Right.
at each other, but it's all in good fun. And I notice a lot we kind of bounce off of each other. Like there's days when I'll be completely lost and I don't know what to do, and she'll help me out.
Right.
There's days when I'm super or she's super lost, and I'm like, I come and help her out. It's about an equal amount of help.
Right.
And I remember it was a day where it actually happened Saturday. We was working. There was this guy there who's doing deliveries. He walked over to her and he was like, give me a smile, the Captain Marvel thing.
Oh God.
And I never ran into the situation, and she got ticked off by it. And I was just looking at it, and I was just like, I'd be, I wouldn't be mad, but I'd be all like,
Irritated.
yeah, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you telling me to smile? It's like,
Oh yeah.
okay, it's like,
And that's
all right,
I and
it, it's it's
oh
like I can sympathize with a lot of the women how they feel, especially with looks and stuff.
yeah.
There's a lot of pressure on women and with what they wear. I totally
Mm-hmm.
agree. It
Mm-hmm.
is. It is because like you'll have some people and it's weird. I don't know why a lot of guys do this, but they do. There are some guys who will justify like I can do this to this girl because she was wearing this and it provoked me, and I'm like,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
no, it's those things, and it's like
Well, if
I can
you're
understand.
like, what is it? I was had this conversation because I got some squirrel kids up in here, and then I have a lot of nephews and stuff, right? And they're all varied in age because there's an age gap in my family. So I got I got cousins who are
Right,
much older than me, and then cousins who are much younger than me. And I, and here's the thing: is like with the girls, it's like when I was raised young, right? I was never told like my grandma was like a classic feminist, which is a lot different than the crap we have going on now. So a classic feminist is they believe in equality, and that's for everybody, period, across the board. Not mistreating anybody based on anything. Just for your actions and your abilities alone speak for themselves. Meaning, whatever your abilities are, those speak for themselves, not how you look or how you dress or what family you come from or any of that bullshit. And so,
right,
I was never told, and this is the truth. I was never told that women um, couldn't do something. What I was told was there are some things that are not within our capability, but you can try your best to see. Try your
yeah,
best, see if you can get over those, hurdles, and sometimes those hurdles are not attainable. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
because it's made that way. I mean, there's been things that happen in workplaces where I've had a boss point blank tell me, "Well, this isn't a job for a single parent," and they said mother, not parent. And then they said, well, you can't go to this job function because you can't bring your kid. Um, this is for spouses and families only. And I'm like, well, I have a family, I have a son. Well, no, you have to have a spouse. I've had shit like that.
yeah,
And that surprised me. And I was like, whoa, interesting. And then, of course, this is back in the day when you couldn't bring cell phones into meeting rooms, that kind of stuff. So, like, I had no way to prove that this was said to me, but it was. Um, and then when it goes down to it, I've had people say comments about what I was wearing at work, and it was from men in a very derogatory sense, and I would just whip something back at them, like you'd be more attractive if you had duct tape over your face, like stuff like that. Um, and they'd leave me the hell alone. You have to be quick and you have to be fast, and with women, it's like I have my daughter. It's a work in progress, and this is for all women. Is you have to have confidence, but not a
yeah,
dick. Don't be a bitch. That's easy. Being a bitch is very easy to be, but having the quickness of just confidently telling somebody, you know what, you need to go flutter back to where you came from. I'll give you a smile when I know you're not in the building. How about that? Um, just kind of redirecting like you would with like a 10-year-old. Like,
Yep.
oh, follow the butterfly out the door. But it's one of those things that being a female, we're accustomed to it so often that like I don't mind certain behavior because I know it's gentlemanly, right? There are
Yeah.
certain roles that people have. If a male opens a door for me, I'm not going to flip out. I open the door for everyone else too. I don't think twice about it because that's just being polite. Um,
Hey,
you
I
know,
even open the doors for a dog if I have to.
exactly. I mean, it's
No
just
discrimination here.
it's just courtesy, and really that's what
Yeah.
it is. It's just being courteous. So it's like, if you know, I had a oh man, there's so many great stories about workplace harassment that I was not involved in, but I watched as a third party, and I'm like, oh my, this isn't gonna end well. Um, but you can sit back and watch these things unfold, and you're like, that's not gonna go well. Oh look, she's reacting accordingly. Oh look, she's angry. Okay. And a lot of women don't feel like they're safe enough to say something in some cases, right? That was a big deal, in some places I've worked, and because it was a boss that did something, and that was crazy, and that's why all of a sudden now there's like when you go in, a woman goes into a meeting with the male boss, there's always a female boss there too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because those situations were created, over time. So it's like I'm well aware about the sex, the sexism and the weird shit that goes on, but at the same time, it's like you were saying before, when things are forced on you, it's like it's not a natural feeling. It feels like if something feels forced, like in a film, like, oh look, we have all this diversity, this should be a compensation for a shitty film. It doesn't. It takes away the quality when you're so focused on the cosmetic. You know.
Right. It's
Uh,
yeah, and like it's just like let me say this about the diversity thing.
mhm.
Like we have this new Batman movie coming out and stuff, and
Oh yeah.
and I've been looking at the castings. Even they've been going down in Marvel. They're talking about like a black Professor X and black Magneto. This they got an African American Catwoman now,
Right.
and I'm just looking at it, and I'm just like, I'll be real. I'm African American, and I don't want to see none of that because it's just like this. It's just like this. I like to keep the same energy, right?
Right.
You know, it is a fact that yes, a lot of people who have a certain skin color did kind of take a lot of my people's characters that look like me.
Mhm.
They did kind of just switch up the characters, but it's just like it happened. Let's not repeat it.
Right.
And it's that thing of when you repeat the same wrong that been done to you, you don't fix the problem, you make it even worse. And I'm just like this. I remember I was on Instagram and I was arguing with somebody and I told them, well, all right then. If you're okay with Commissioner Gordon being black and Catwoman being black, let's make Spider-Man Asian. Let's make Superman Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
Let's make Batman a female, and let's make Black Panther uh Asian. And when I list all this dude was pissed. He's like, no, you can't do that. I was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
I'm being diverse, bro. I'm being diverse. Let's do it. Let's go on with the diversity. And he was like, oh no, but Black Panther's a popular character, but Commissioner Gordon is a minor character. I'm like, oh, I got you.
Mm.
So since it's a minor character and and he's minor to you, but he's probably major to someone else, it's okay for you to do it because he's minor to you. Because Commissioner Gordon has every character has a fan base.
Right.
Every character of fiction has a fan base, whether they're unpopular or not. Every character has a fan base. Even Commissioner Gordon from Batman. I mean, I'm not a
Right.
fan of him, but he has fans. People appreciate him, and just like you're twisting people's characters and stuff. I never liked the practice of skin color swaps of characters. I mean, yeah, it happened. Like when I was a kid, I'll be honest with you. I used to see him and I was like, I never really tripped off him. But as I got older, when you get older, you start to get wise. You start to notice things. And I
Mhm.
got older, I was like, I'm not I don't really like this. You know,
Yeah.
I don't really like this. You know, even though it happened, it's like I was a kid. Kids, we don't pick up on things like we don't pick up on things.
Right.
We don't pick up on things. When you get older, you do, and when
Mhm.
you get educated on more things, you start to realize things. And I started realizing things. All of these are ploys and traps and attempts to like create this whole thing of diversity. It's like no. At the end of the day, I don't want to take uh Wonder Woman and give her to the men and say we're going to turn her into a man. That's going to
Right.
be weird. I don't want to see that. I don't want
Right.
to see Wonder Man. That's disgusting. I don't see Wonder Man. That'll be hideous. Hairy dude living on a planet, living on an island full of beautiful women. Disgusting. I don't want to see that. Get him out of here. It's an island full of women. It's a show. Wonder Woman is a woman.
Right.
Superman. Let's leave him alone. I don't want them to turn Superman into like a freaking green weird alien thingy. Leave
Right.
Superman as a Caucasian looking dude. He was made by two Jewish guys. I respect that two Jewish guys made him. They made him in his image, and if I was the first person to ever make Superman, he probably would have looked black.
Mhm.
But people don't forget. People don't understand that when these characters are created, they're created in the image of how people look at themselves, and that's not selfish. It's not wrong. If white people are making white characters, they're going to look like them.
Right.
It's just a fact. If black people make characters, they're gonna look like us.
Right.
It's just like when I write characters that I want to do, they're probably gonna look like me. If I
Right.
had to be honest, they're probably gonna look like me.
It's true.
But sure we can go ahead with this diversity thing. I'm all down for diversity, but I'd rather take new characters, new ideas, and these movies like mad with Star Wars, Marvel, DC. They don't understand
Mhm.
because Marvel and DC and these movie companies tell us we're not the comics. We pull stuff from the comics. Well, you can just make a new original superhero and just toss them into a movie.
Right. Like that's the part that I don't understand is why are we not seeing new ones? We have this universe set up. Why can't we do this? Like bring in some if you want to bring in diversity, my god, there are plenty of opportunities you guys keep skipping over because you're looking
Yeah,
at the cash cow. That's what they're doing. They're like,
right.
"Oh, screw it. We want money." Well, I thought you want diversity. Well, we want both. I'm like,
It's
you
it's
have
like legit.
like the
Make
Black
you,
Panther.
you
They brought that in. Boom. Okay, great. You brought, you know what I mean? Something new to the universe. Like we needed this. All right. It was long overdue. Okay.
well, see, let me say one thing about Black Panther. A lot of the people that went to go see the Black Panther film, and I can just use any analogy with this. Like when that movie Crazy Rich Asians came out, it's
Oh
the
yeah.
same equivalent thing. You're gonna have a lot of people who do look like certain peoples in certain movies that are going to go support those movies based off the people that look like them because some people want to go support the people that look like them, and it's nothing wrong with doing that. It's not like a PC SJW thing because a lot of people who would call a bunch of black people going to go see Black Panther just because it's black
Right.
SJW. I can I can sort of see it and I can sort of like laugh at the fact that they're saying it, but I'm
Right.
just like at the end of the day, it's going to happen. People are going to go support something if it looks like them. Now, me, I'll watch any film. I don't no matter what color it is. In my opinion, I
Right.
like a lot of I like to watch a lot of old medieval films and stuff, and I'll be based around cultures in Europe and everything more
Right.
than other films. It's primarily Asian films and European films. I'm like totally down with watching more than other films,
Right.
just because of story, the rich stories that come out of it. That's just me.
No,
But
I
I
agree.
watch any movie, no matter what color, gender it is. Hell, I even watch Orange is the New Black. Yes, I watch Orange is the New Black. I am
Well,
that guy.
I think everyone has like their, to me, if it's a good story, I'll watch it. If it looks like it'll be funny or like there's certain humor I don't like. You know what I mean? Like I just get bored with it. I'm like, eh. But then there's films I've sit through and I'm like, God, I sat through this movie, but it was funny. You know, I'm very
Right.
picky about films I'll sit down and watch, but I don't really care. Like I watch a lot of stuff that's foreign, so I've watched way too much Korean crap, and I said well, that was love. Way too much stuff, like unbelievable amounts of like Asian dramas and stuff from Thailand and stuff, and then also a lot
Oh,
of more dramatic stuff from like the Nollywood sector, which was new to me. Like a couple years ago, I was like, "What is this?" And it was just so different. I was like, "Okay." It was all Nigerian
oh, wait.
films.
Oh, Nigerian Hollywood. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
yes, oh yes, it's on Netflix, and I've watched quite, and they're very like some of them are very dark, like humor, and I was like, wow, like I didn't expect that. Some of the films, the comedies are great, um,
Yeah,
but it's the same thing when you watch like the Indian films. I'm prepared to sit through at least two dance numbers that don't make any sense, but at the same time, at least the stories are good, or maybe there's an underlining factor to it or something. And sometimes I don't like it, and that's fine. But I like films that are, everyone has different senses of humor depending on where you are in the world. Like things that we would be like, what the hell is hilarious there? Like
yeah,
Asian dramas are like that a lot. But yeah, it's one of those things though where you just have to kind of like I think with watching films, it's a bit of an adventure. You never know what film you might end up really loving that you didn't think you would. And Americans, our stuff is just so it's turned into a more of a machine of popcorn films. You know,
yeah,
where you're not getting a lot of like. I do agree with Scorsese that we do have a lot more like amusement park films than we do, films of like substance. It's gotten kind of like swarmed with just I don't know, cartoonish. Let's just go see a movie where things blow up and there's a lot of CGI that doesn't belong there, and not a lot of acting per se. Things have changed drastically. With the I guess with the introduction of CGI since Jurassic Park, I think things just have gone, both downhill and uphill at the same time. But
yeah. I
yeah,
I mean I agree. I agree on that. I do agree with Martin Scorsese too because it's not a popcorn film, but when the Joker was like the best of the year, a comic book film. Not saying comic book films do not have good writing.
right,
I'm not saying Joker does not have good writing. I like the movie. It's not as I wouldn't hype it up as much as people overhyped it, but it's still a good film. But a lot of people are saying Joker is like the best film of the year. There's people who say Avengers Endgame is the best film of the year.
right.
And I'm just like, whoa. We have movies like The Irishman that came out, Ford versus Ferrari.
Mhm.
It didn't Once Upon a Time in Hollywood drop this year?
Right.
It, yeah, that came out this year
Yep.
too. Yeah, that movie came out this year too. And I'm just like, wow, we just dubbed the comic book films over like the films that because that's the thing about it now. Comic book films overshadow other films now, like just any other film in general. Or if it's an action film like Terminator or something, it may get a chance to breathe. But a lot of these superhero films, comic book films, overshadow these bigger films now. Like these comic book films are gaining more attention, more money in the box office than say your Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, your The Irishmans,
Mhm.
your Ford versus Ferraris, and those are actually like they're not on the scale of what a comic book film is, but they're films that are like of good quality writing,
Right.
super good quality, like compared to a comic book movie, like probably even better. But they get overshadowed, and it's like the people in Hollywood are at fault, and I also blame the viewers. We're also at fault too,
Mhm.
and not all of us, because there's a few of us that do watch those movies. A lot of people who watch these superhero movies don't watch other movies.
Yeah.
They just watch popcorn movies, and oh man, it's just like when Matt. It's just like when the Bumblebee movie came out. I watched the Bumblebee film,
Mhm.
and I did my review, and there was people trying to tell me, "Oh my gosh, this movie's super complex and all that." I'm like, this movie is an Iron Giant copy. Iron Giant did this first. This
Right.
movie is a disrespect to Iron Giant. It is trying so hard to be Iron Giant. This Bumblebee will never be Iron Giant. Iron Giant is Iron Giant.
Right. Now,
And I'm
eh, eh,
yeah.
did you see The Irishman? Speaking of that film.
Oh, I'm gonna review it. I'm in.
Oh.
I after I'm past this. I'm past second hour, 30-minute mark. Still need to finish it. I still need to finish it, but so far I do like it. It's a very slow burn, and I can handle slow burns, but like the Irishman, I think it's longer than it should be, but I'm still gonna finish it.
Yeah.
But so far, it's your average gangster story, and from what I heard, that this story is based around some like almost true events in a way.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like the main character who Al Pacino is playing, not Al Pacino, yeah, Al Pacino, right?
Oh, it meaning like you mean the Hitman? That's De
Yeah, yeah,
Niro.
yeah. Robert De Niro, the
Mm-hmm.
hitman. He's a fictional character. But everybody else around him is like,
Well, actually, it is based on a book, and he is based on a real person.
oh,
Yes,
okay,
and this is alleged events from the book. Um, there was a video that did a breakdown of the actual people that are being played in the film, the real people that that basically Scorsese did his research as well as the book, obviously, because the movie's based on this book. We paint houses. Um, but it's such a. I watched it. I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed it immensely. Like, I was a slow burn. It was one of those films that like I was letting it play for a while, and I'm listening and watching it and doing other shit, and
right,
because I had to. 3.5 hours of my life right there, but it was worth it. And if I left the room, I was pausing it because I was like, I didn't want to miss anything. And there are little things that definitely, you know what I mean, pass through as you're going along. But it's really good. In the end, I gave it, for me, an 8 out of 10. I think it's worth seeing. I think it should be nominated for something. Joe Pesci, fucking man, it was like, I was like, oh, Joe Pesci's here, little guy. Look at you. Where have you been? Um, yeah, go ahead.
You want to know the one thing about It was one thing about the Irishman that made me laugh. Not in a bad way, but just in like oh wow, they should covered it a bit more. Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro looks so. They tried to dye his hair to make him
Yeah,
look younger.
yeah, yep,
It was that scene when his daughter went the scene when he went to the store to beat up the guy who messed with his daughter, and
yeah.
then he had those little old man kicks. I was like, how old is he? I was like, he's supposed to be a young hitman, right? I'm like, wait a minute, he looks like an old guy.
Yeah.
Wait
Well,
a
it's
minute.
like, and this is
Oh
the
my
thing
gosh,
too. Is
the
like
aging.
it was like the first scene, like when he flashes back and he's driving the truck.
Right.
I was like, whole. It took me aback because the makeup job they did on him to make him look younger, or if I don't know if that's CGI. I doubt it, but it was like the makeup job though took me aback for a minute. I was like, holy shit, you look weird. And then I mean that it was fine. Like I got used to it after like
Yeah,
not
same. I got
yeah
used to it. I was like, he's old at old man strength. That's
yeah
all.
That's exactly. I was just like, that makeup job at first did take me aback, but it wasn't terrible. So I wasn't like, okay, this is, I can handle this. I can take him seriously. It's not like that bad, thank God. But it took me aback for a minute though. I was like, oh man, he's still. I forget how old he is, but yeah, you'll like it if you're only into like the second hour. I'm not gonna say anything, but there was a couple scenes that took me by surprise, and for it being a Scorsese film, the only thing else I can say is I'm very surprised of the lack of blood that I've seen when I
Oh
saw that.
yeah, I was surprised. I
Because
was
I
surprised.
mean, there, Scorsese, man, you just start seeing things flying everywhere. You're just like, what the hell? Got blood, you got all kinds of like real serious like flesh wounds. But this doesn't have the same level of bloodshed that I've seen in his other films. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Because the story's been, like to me, I really enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the way the film was done. And it's always nice to have a nice mafia movie that isn't trap. Um, so it is a slow burn, but it picks up in places and then it speeds up a bit. So it's like it's setting the tone and the feeling and the space and all the shit. But it's a good film. I enjoyed it. Well, I'll let you finish it though. I don't want to say anything. It's gonna be like, oh, and this happens, and you'll be like, what? No, I have to leave it alone because it's the way that certain scenes played out that I was like shocked a little bit. I was like, oh, didn't expect that. Okay, because it was just well done, and I'm like,
Yeah,
Okay, that's the kind of movie I enjoy, is having that little surprise in there, and you're like, nice, nicely done. Didn't see that coming. But anyway, I'm gonna start wrapping up. But I usually end these little interviews with some questions. And I don't know, there's an older show that used to be on. It's still kind of on in reruns, but it was called Inside the Actor's Studio. Okay. And at the end of the episode, it was like they'd sit down with different directors and actors, and they'd ask them 10 different questions. And it's called the Pivot questionnaire. And it's 10 different questions, and it's basically so people get to know you in different ways, like through the questions. And they're very simple, they're nothing too spicy. But
Right.
anyway, so the first question is, what is your favorite word?
What is my favorite word?
Yes.
Dude.
Dude.
So
And what is your least favorite word? It could be any type of usage of it. There will be a question about what your favorite curse word is, so keep that in mind. So, what is your least favorite word? Is the one right now, though.
can't. Least favorite word is can't.
Can't. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So, here's the next one. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? What is something that just either stirs something in you or, um, I guess, cultivates a motivation for one reason or another?
What turns me on? Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, he's a big motivator in my life.
Big Sonic fan then. Um, what turns you off
Spiritually, emotionally, or
or
um,
creatively? Something that just turns you off.
not giving credit back to someone after you sort of build off their not build off the work, but you kind of like blatantly make a copy of somebody's work
Oh,
and you don't give credit back to it. Like
like
you don't give
plagiarism.
credit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give credit back to it. It's like at least uh, at least give credit back.
Right,
But still go about your, go about your business. Make sure you give credit back though.
right.
That's all.
Okay. And what is your favorite curse word?
Oh, my favorite curse word. Well, whore. And Mad Squirrel, don't
I'm not gonna. Don't
get
worry.
twisted. I have a group chat with my friends, and we always go at it every day. And my friend,
Mm.
he always goes at me. He's always picking at me, and I always have to call him, "You whore." Messing with me.
I am not offended by any of these words because I find them entertaining. Like I have Australian Stevie J. Okay, his favorite word is cunt. Okay, it just
Right.
is. And I'm like, that's fine because I think it's hilarious because it's used so common over there, like, how we say shit or
Right.
damn. So I'm not really offended by that word. I'm like, whatever.
Well,
Whore is
well,
a great one.
well. Surprisingly, I'm kind of weird because usually, like all my guy friends, I never straight up think I ever called a woman like by the slurs that you would call that people
Yeah.
would call certain women. Surprisingly, like when I talk to my guy friends, I call them sluts. I call them whores. I call them skanks sometimes.
Skanks is a good one.
I
It is.
I like going with my guy friends. Like I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I will hold back again. I hold back certain comments when I talk to women and stuff.
Right.
No, I will hold back certain comments. But if it's like a confrontation thing where like
Yeah.
a woman does get in my face and it's like, oh, like a random outside thing, and like she gets mad at me, and like, I may say some things I don't want to say.
Like
But if it's just
I
like a
like
casual thing and we're talking and we're
the
just like cursing back and forth at each other, I won't say no
right.
slang towards them like that.
What is it? Like there's that I like that phrase, shut your dirty whore mouth. That's like the best phrase ever. I love
That's
that one
that's
so
the one
much.
I tell my friend every day.
It's so great. I think it was from Anchorman. And so I love that phrase because I'll tell the comm squirrel, that's the spouse. I'll tell
Right.
him all the time like shut your dirty whore mouth. And
No.
it's just the greatest phrase when you're just like and then he'll laugh cuz we, that's what we do in this house is harass each other. But because when you get married, really, it's just about when you meet that special K-Dot lady in your life. Hopefully, she will share the sexual harassment between both of you because that's what marriage is. It's an ongoing process of harassment. No, I'm kidding.
We
But
will keep the harassment equal.
exactly, it's all consented. That's the best part. But anyway, what sound or noise do you love?
What sound or noise do I love?
Yes.
Dang, what sound or noise do I love?
It's an interesting question when you think about it too. You're like, well, let me think.
Mm, dang, what the? Oh God, that's
That's yeah. It's one of those
mm,
like what sound or noise. So it can be uh, certain music. Some people pick stuff in nature. Um, Everyone has a different. It's very interesting. I've heard different ones that are very funny.
I like hearing certain drum rhythms in songs. Like if I hear certain familiar patterns and different music that I like to listen to for a certain genre,
Right.
and I catch the patterns, I like hearing those drum patterns and those beats. Like I like bass.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I like. I like bass. I like I don't know. I think I might go deaf, and it may be my own fault. If I do, just know my channel is gonna be about me doing sign language and stuff, doing sign language tutorials. I got to evolve,
I
but
respect the bass. I absolutely do. I'm a big bass fanatic, so yes.
same. I love hearing bass. I love bass.
Oh
I
yeah.
like
I
I
love
like
it
I
in a
like
great sound system. I
boom.
like it when it's like rattling a wall, but it's in the ground too. I don't know. I love bass. Like I've always have. I've blown out speakers in my cars twice, but it's been a while, so I don't have a subwoofer in the trunk anymore. So good old days.
It
But
has like
yes,
it has a weird funny comfort to it.
it
Like with
does.
bass, even though it's loud, it has a weird funny comfort. Like it's just the fact the way it feels against my ears and stuff.
Mhm.
It's a strange comfort,
Yeah.
but I like it.
Yep. I'm the same way. Now, what sound or noise do you not like, or hate even?
Uh, it's commonly the sound that happens when people let's if for example a chalkboard when people scratch their nails or something
Oh,
across something and
yeah.
you feel that tingle in
Yeah.
your body when you hear that like screeching sound and you feel that tingle in your body, it makes you shiver. I
Yeah.
hate that sound.
Yeah.
I those sounds specifically, it makes my body shiver.
It's a terrible noise. It echoes, and I don't know. I don't like it. It's just that. Yeah, I agree. I don't like that noise either. Now, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I actually interned in it once. I do need to seek it more, but information technology doing IT support.
Oh, okay.
IT support. Or um possibly youth advocacy. Youth advocacy
Mm.
or IT support.
Oh, that's
Primarily
cool.
IT support, youth advocacy as like a side gig.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
That would be good. Definitely
primarily
more of
those.
that. What profession would you not like to do ever?
Anything that has to do with cash register.
Yeah, I don't want to be responsible for anything. I'm the same way. I don't want to do shit. I don't want to do it.
Anything with a register, don't let me do it. I'd rather work. I'd rather do labor. I don't
Mm-hmm.
put me at a register. I am not gonna sit there at a register.
No, I don't. I agree. I don't want to deal with that either. Okay, here's the last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well, up here you can do whatever you want. Go have fun.
He's like, those guys on Earth are such like prudes. Like up here, it's a free for all.
Like, it's like I'm just hoping I get up there like go have fun, go do whatever you want. Oh, thank you. Finally, yes.
Yeah, right.
Or it's do it like the episode of American Dad where Stan just created his whole illusion of his family and everything, and he lives in a memory
Right,
or some kind of weird thingy,
right.
weird thing in his head.
Yeah, like
But
an
he's
alternative universe of some type.
right, something like that, something like that. I just like Stan from American Dad. I want to be able to do whatever I want, think whatever I want. Because if I'm in afterlife, living the rest of my life for eternity, I want to do whatever I want.
Right. Now, thank you for hanging out and chatting with me and just kind of chilling. We ended up talking about all kinds of stuff a little bit, but that's the point of talking and having a conversation and people to get to know you a little bit. And I really appreciate you taking time out from a busy evening during the week. So, but for those of the audience, once again, I have up your information on the screen for your um, Snapchat and your Instagram and YouTube channel where people can find you. Is there anything you have planned coming up or anything you wanted to plug and anything like that?
Biggest thing I got coming planned is I will be reviewing The Witcher. I will be reacting to those
Oh
episodes.
my.
Star Wars Episode 9 rant video will come because it for sure will be a rant. But Witcher Netflix review.
I think it'll be great, especially with so much stuff coming out in such a small window now for hanging out and people can find you on your channel. I know our connection's a little off this evening. It's a little crunchy, if you will. But people can find SSJ K-Dot Sanctum on YouTube at his channel. I'm going to have all the links in the description. You'll also see some pop ups on the screen here of where to find him on different platforms. Hopefully, he'll be making his miraculous return to Twitter soon. Hopefully. But I want to thank SSJ for hanging out tonight. I know our connection was a little crazy late at night. I think Google's been having issues overall this past week. So um, I know I couldn't get into my Gmail for like, oh, a good few hours this morning. So that's why I was delayed responding to people. I was like, oh my. But yeah, I hope everyone does take an opportunity though to check out his information and his channel. He's growing and he's doing well and I was trying to wait for his return to Twitter, but I realized it wasn't going to happen. So I had to seek him out in other ways. But I'm so grateful you had the time to sit down with me tonight, SSJ.
Well, it's all good. I was willing to take some time out of my under busy day.
Well, I really appreciate it. And everyone, please check out his channel and find him on Instagram, find him on Snapchat. All of his info will be in the description box. So thank you again, SSJ, and everyone have a very good night or evening.